Well, hey there, guys. John here. And of course, you guys will know that on Friday, Ann and I did the spoiler video for the Mandalorian Season 2 finale. Had a great time. There were so many questions that came in. We did, the original show was over like 3.5 hours. And so we had to do a companion video for it. But I realized that a lot of the questions that were coming in were similar to some of the other questions. So I thought, well, you know what? Instead of everybody hearing me answer the same questions the same way, I thought you guys might appreciate a little bit of a different perspective and a little bit of a different point of view. So I asked Robert Meyer Burnett if he would like to do the companion video for the remaining questions from that Mandalorian open spoiler discussion on Friday. So without any further ado, let's go over to Robert Meyer Burnett.
Let's get this show on the road. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. It is once again I, your Viceroy of Verisimilitude, Robert Meyer Burnett, and John Campea has asked me to help him out with a companion video about The Mandalorian. And I said, heck yeah, son. I love that Mandalorian finale. Bring it on. So, without further ado, let me get to your questions. First of all, McKeel sends in a super chat and says, I've never liked the Skywalkers. Come on, man. What do you mean? But that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I didn't think we'd see such a big character on the small screen. Now I don't know what to expect from now on with Star Wars and Marvel. I agree with you. Look, I'm not going to lie. I kind of teared up seeing Jedi Luke come and wreck shop. I've wanted to see that, well, for probably longer than most of you have been alive. And it was glorious. But yeah, I think it really makes a statement that now Disney Plus, what we're getting from the new Star Wars shows that are upcoming, and of course the Marvel shows, I think all bets are off. I really do. So I can't wait to see what happens, just like you. Josh sent a super chat in and says, now I hate The Last Jedi even more. Hashtag, this is my Luke. You know what? I don't hate The Last Jedi. I don't. I think that it was a choice that was interesting, especially if you consider that Star Wars it had a lot of Akira Kurosawa influence in it. And while the problem was not that it was necessarily bad, it's just not what we wanted. But from a storytelling standpoint, there's a lot of classical stuff going on with where Luke was at in The Last Jedi. It's just that when we last left Luke, he was a newly minted Jedi after facing down the Emperor and Darth Vader in the Death Star 2, and then we jump ahead to The Force Awakens. He shows up on Ahch-To at the end of the movie, and he's like some hermit. Well, how did that happen? We wanted to see Luke as a full-fledged Jedi, and for the very first time in this episode of The Mandalorian, we did. Ojimon654 sent in a super chat and says, so do Grogu and R2-D2 know each other? Ooh, I think that remains to be seen, but definitely a possibility. Shadow Ninja sent in a $5 super chat and said, also, most awesome dialogue for me was the words from the random Imperial pilot. Millions were lost and the galaxy cheered. Nice Lost Stars mention. Well, clearly between Favreau and our favorite boy, I think that we are really getting Star Wars by people that know things. I mean, they drink and they know things. We're really getting, I think, people that are really delving into. Favreau has to have been reading these books. I think he has, and he's delving into the extended universe, and we're getting more and more, maybe in drabs and dribbles, but still pretty cool. The Astro Zombie sent in a super chat and says, Bo-Katan has to take the Darksaber by combat now. When Sabine gave it away, it didn't work. Gideon says it better. The saber has no power. The story does. Very cool. I can't wait to see that. I thought that was a really interesting twist on the lore. I welcomed it. Bobby Stevens sent in a $5 super chat and says, I wonder how they will write around this. Where's Grogu during the new films? Did he die when Kylo freaked out? I was low-key hoping for Ezra. Oh, I think you're going to get Ezra. We have a lot of opportunity for Ezra to show up. And I think we've got a lot of time between all of these upcoming shows. And they did mention in the Disney investor call that all the new shows coming up are going to be intertwined, the ones that are set at the same time as The Mandalorian, and I think we're going to see crossovers galore. So I'm excited. They know what's going on. They know what's up. They know what they want to do. Benson Gwynn sends in a super chat and says, I really thought Ezra or Cal would show up, but I think they're saving that for the Ahsoka show instead. Darksaber was in the same room as Luke. What? I know, right? Craziness. I'm looking forward to that. Richard K sends in a super chat. Thanks for that support of the channel, Richard. In Mando Season 3, will we see Mando go to visit Grogu in training on Luke's island from the sequel trilogy, and Kylo and the Knights of Ren as younglings training? Probably. Well, I think all that stuff is up for grabs. I don't know. No idea, but I would imagine all of that is in play. Andy Newton sends in a super chat and says, I bet a lot of nerds' wives got lucky today. Laugh out loud. Lucky or unlucky, depending on your point of view. There was a lot of energy flowing. That's all I'm saying. Jacob Silver sent in a super chat and says, the reason why I asked that question about Bo-Katan is because in one of the shots after Gideon shot her, we saw somebody fall. It's true. Don't know what they'll say about that. Rocky Nez sends in a super chat and says, do you think they'll get Sebastian Stan for Luke? You know what? No doubt he looks a lot like him. Maybe. Maybe, although with Mark Hamill being alive and having de-aging technology, I don't know. I think it's going to get better and better. I don't know. Josh A. sends in a super chat and says, one of two, I guess Grace Randolph is doubling down on Twitter, claiming her scoop was right, and the Boba Fett show is taking Mando's December 2021 release date. Lucasfilm has actually been rather coy on Mando Season 3 news. Well, the Boba Fett series is already in production, and I'm sure Mando Season 3 is as well. As we know, Boba Fett is not a Mandalorian. So they're not going to have a show that stars Boba Fett without, they're not going to call it The Mandalorian. And why wouldn't you do both? It's going to be successful. I think, I don't understand where this idea that there's going to be no Mandalorian and we have the whole taking back of Mandalore storyline and the Darksaber storyline. There's enough to go around, And you've got, remember, Luke and Grogu still belong to the Mandalorian, whereas the Book of Boba Fett is something different. I would love to see Boba Fett become a crime boss, consolidate his power across what's becoming of the New Republic. It'd be very interesting to see. Interesting stuff. Cools 657-124 sends in a super chat and says, I really hope that Sebastian Stan will become Luke's son, with Mark confirmed as Luke. I know Luke's alone in the Disney lore, but I hope it changes. Maybe. We'll see. I don't really know. Venkat Ram Saran Tamala sends in a super chat and says, I was losing my mind when Luke showed up. The damn pull and slice. Ooh. But had a tiny, teeny hope that it was a new Jedi, though. You know what? As soon as, I got to tell you, when that X-Wing flew in, like John Campea said, I was like, is that Luke? Like, who else could it be? And when that green lightsaber ignited, I think half the planet Earth lost their collective minds or other things. And I thought it was amazing. Augustin Boyas sends in a super chat and says, I was kind of hoping we were going to find out who saved Baby Yoda. Love this episode, and I love watching your show. Also enjoyed your documentary. Well, I want to thank you for that. Thanks for the support of the channel. And, we did find out who saved Baby Yoda. I thought that was great. And I'm glad you liked the documentary. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad, again, it's a testament to John Campea. He just thought it up and did it. Just kind of like Walter Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, made a movie. Love it. And you guys should too. Dakota Chrisup sends in a super chat and said, was it me? Or was there red paint on the camera before the shock trooper shot the pilot? There might have been. I didn't notice that. I think you're going to have to go back and look. Maybe I will. That's interesting. Hector Barrera sends in a super chat and says, has anyone wondered if R2-D2 was the one to save Grogu from Order 66? They did seem to recognize each other. Interesting. Because he would be alive when Order 66 happened. Maybe that's so. That'll be a cool flashback. Rated Row sent in a super chat and says, seems the Armorer will have an issue with Din and the other Mandalorians, huh? Civil War, maybe? Thoughts? Ooh, could be. Although I really think everybody wants Mandalore taken back. I would love to see, that's the new storyline in The Mandalorian, is they too are going to become a rebel faction, if they're not already, and they're going to try and take back their planet, liberate a planet, which I love because rebellion and resisting against the Empire or an opposing force that is stealing people's liberties and lives, I think is exactly what Star Wars is all about. So I'm looking forward to whatever they do. I'm stoked. Richard K. sent in a super chat and said, when Moff Gideon mentioned that they just wanted baby Yogurt's blood, do you think it was from Snoke and Emperor Palpatine clones from Rise of Skywalker? I definitely think it could be. But remember, they might just want to clone a bunch of creatures or Force adept or beings that are strong with the Force to work for them, so they're wielding dark side power. And I don't necessarily think it's about Palpatine, but having a cadre of soldiers. I mean, we've seen the Dark Troopers and how they're droids, but what if you had beings, flesh and blood beings that could wield the dark side? Because a droid never really could. And so I think that's what they're looking for, is to create an army of soldiers that are Force adept, wielding Dark Force powers. Alan Tan sends in a super chat and says, ha ha ha, what a story, Mark. I don't know quite what that's referring to, but I bet it is quite a story. Christina B. sends in a super chat and says, I think Grogu could be a path to the future. He was visiting Dad and hid for the sequels. Were they implying R2 saved Grogu from Order 66? I wouldn't be surprised if that... everyone's talking about that. I think that's a possibility. Again, I don't know, but we'll see. Richard K. sends in a super chat and says, like turning up schooling some fools, John Campea at home, soup goop all over your dreams come true. I don't want to touch that one. That's something Anne could only tell you. Richard K. sent in a super chat and says, I just read that. Richard K. It was so funny I had to read it again. Darth KSO sends in a $4.99 super chat and says, I got severe Return of the Sith vibes with Annie killing the Seps with Luke and the troopers. Yeah, maybe. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, what can you say? I liked it, but I thought it was better. I tell you, I think that the final episode of The Mandalorian was one of the more satisfying Star Wars times we've had since maybe... I mean, I don't hate the prequels. Do I think they're good movies? No, but I think there's good Star Wars in them. And I really do enjoy Revenge of the Sith, even though, it's got a lot of stuff that's not great, but I like it. Matthew Cassidy sent in a super chat and says, you think we're going to see a Star Wars week in December 2021? Boba, Mando, Rangers, and Ahsoka on different days? Talking about nerdiness gone wild. It'd be like the old Mickey Mouse Club. Every day of the week was a new day of the week, and Wednesday was surprise day. So maybe they could do an anthology show on Wednesday. So we'll get Boba on Monday, Mando on Tuesday, the surprise anthology show, surprise day, Wednesday, and then the Rangers and Ahsoka on Thursday and Friday. I'm in. I don't care what they dish up. I'm there for it. Absolutely. Empire Fan 1980 sends in a super chat and says, I wonder if Cara Dune and Leia know each other there or met before. They're both from the same planet. Too bad we never got to see a Cara and Leia scene. Yeah, that would have been cool. I wonder if they did know each other. They might. I mean, that would actually be... that would be pretty cool if that was the case. Jamie London sent in a super chat and says, hi, John and Ann. My goodness, twice I've watched the finale today and both times cried. I'm 43, but it felt like I was 8 again playing with my toys. I am right there with you. Like I said on the John Campea Show, I'd like to believe that Jon Favreau is at home playing with toys as he writes this show. Like, he has all of his... I'd like to believe they're Hot Toys, 12-inch figures, so they're big, and he's got them all spread out, and he's even doing camera angles and stuff, trying to figure out what he's going to write about, which I would love. George Hillier sent in a super chat and says, what do you think about these rumors of Mando Season 3 being Boba Fett? I love Boba, but I'm not done with Din Djarin yet. You know what? I think they're both going to be different shows because, again, The Mandalorian is being caught up in Revolution. The retaking of Mandalore is going to be, I think, epic. And I think Boba Fett's story is totally different. He's on a completely different path. And remember, this idea that Boba Fett's going to replace the Mandalorian, that doesn't make much sense to me. Like I was talking about the different, like Chicago PD and Chicago Fire and Chicago Medical or whatever the show is. I think why couldn't they exist? The Mandalorian's one of the most successful television programs maybe ever, if you include the amount of subscribers that Disney Plus has added to its service since it debuted. So I would think that Why would they be in any hurry to get rid of the Mandalorian? The Mandalorian was a brand new character. Boba Fett's a legacy character, but the Mandalorian was so successful as a brand new character, and I think, man, why would you want to get rid of him? But you never know. Richard K. sends in a super chat and says, will we see Mara Jade in the Mandalorian at all? I don't know. I don't know how much they're going to lean into that stuff, but at this point, I wouldn't put anything past anyone. I mean, they're having a ball making this show, so I think nothing is off the table. Daniel Feliciano sends in a super chat and says, as much as I love the Luke reveal, when I saw the X-Wing, I was hoping for a Mr. Kim sneak attack. Can you imagine if Mr. Kim comes in wielding Luke's green lightsaber, or just comes in blasters ablazing? I hope we haven't seen the last of him, because I think that was great. Roy Van Lonen sends in a super chat and says, hey, John and Ann, episodes are called chapters. Books have chapters. So season 1 and 2 are the Book of Din. Season 3, the Book of Boba Fett. Season 4 and 5 are the Book of Mandalore. Thoughts? Could be, but why can't they just be different books? I think I want to believe that they're going to do both. I think they're going to do both. I really do. Ojimon 654 sends in a super chat and says, kind of ironic that a lot of this season was telling Mando that it's okay to take the mask off, seeing how the world is right now. That's interesting. I didn't think about that, but definitely a point. But, when they first made the show, I mean, this was really shot before COVID, and but it is interesting. It's interesting how stories can take on a deeper resonance, even though you might not even know where that resonance is coming from. Really interesting point you're making there, though. Joshua Racco sends in a super chat and says, heavy is the head that wears the crown, and so is Bob's at a something. This episode made me wish we had got this Luke in the sequels. I think a lot of people were thinking about that. And I have to tell you, remember, it wasn't Rian Johnson who made Luke the Hermit. It was J.J. Abrams. And I think the biggest failing of the sequel trilogy is we didn't get to see the legacy characters all together. I mean, they were incredibly dysfunctional when we met them in The Force Awakens. They'd been estranged from each other. They were all blown apart. I would like to have seen the first movie with all of our characters. I get it. Disney wanted new characters. Like, you can't make a sequel trilogy with all these old characters that are 65 and 70. Who's going to watch? How are we going to get new kids? But they should have done both, where they introduce these legacy characters again. They get to go on one last big hurrah together, and at the same time, introduce these new characters. That's what I would have done, and I think we were robbed of seeing our favorite legacy characters because, again, when we left them, 30 years ago at the end of Return of the Jedi, we didn't get to see them together running the galaxy, and I think that was a mistake. You give them a great victory, and then the next movie, there's another, the First Order has risen, and the galaxy's a mess, and they're all broken apart. I didn't like that. I thought that was a bad choice. Gavin Vale Smith sent in a super chat and says, the Book of Boba Fett is a 2-hour special, not a series. I don't think that's the case. I think they're going to make it a series. Static Skywalker sends in a super chat, the Ben Solo redemption just became more unforgivable if he in fact slaughtered Grogu at Luke's Academy. Please, Disney, do not let that happen. Again, I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of time. Grogu, there's a lot of stuff that can happen with Grogu. Alex Von Gollum sends in a super chat and says, hello there. When Mark Hamill's name appeared in the credits, I lost it again. Still don't understand in which parts it was him acting or just his voice. I'm not sure. I haven't read anything about that yet. I mean, we'll see. Very interesting, though. I'm sure we're going to find out if they have a Mandalorian Gallery Season 2. Everyone's going to want to know how they brought Luke back into the fold, so I can't wait to see that. Richard K. sends in a super chat and says, is Grogu the child of Yoda and Yaddle? And on Dagobah, Yoda asked Luke to train his son as he knew he was dying. Did he? Is that canonical? I don't know, but maybe he could have. Josie Review sends in a super chat and says, for a minute, I thought it was Sebastian Stan as Luke. Me too, to be honest. For a moment, I did too. AJ Zala sent in a super chat and says, after seeing the interaction between Grogu and R2-D2, made me think that R2 saved him from Order 66. Hashtag John, you are the man. You know what? You might be right about that. A lot of people are writing in on that, and I like that idea. I think that's pretty cool. Hulk Shooter 32 sends in a super chat and says, first, I want to watch or read more about Leia as a Jedi. It seems cool to me. And second, will Bo-Katan and Mando rule Mandalore together? Well, I don't know if Mandalore, if our Mandalorian could rule Mandalore together. We'll have to find out. But I wouldn't mind to see Bo-Katan take over as the head of state of Mandalore, however that would shake out or look like. I think it'd be pretty cool. Richard Kent sends in a super chat and says, so that's why Luke showed up and not Ahsoka, because he wanted to honor his master's request by training Yoda's son. Could very well be. Could very well be. George Hillier sent in another super chat. I could have easily named 12 top moments from this episode, but how good was the Mando versus Gideon fight, showing just how strong Beskar is. I thought it was amazing. I loved it. Mohammed Ibrahim sends in a super chat and says, I didn't notice the X-Wing at first, so because of the green LS. The whole time I thought it was Ezra, so I was like, this kid came a long way. I know, right? I didn't quite know either until that green lightsaber ignited, man. That was, flutters. I'm still thinking back to it. Ooh. Double Crit sends in a super chat and says, when Din was getting pounded in the face by the robot, I got flashbacks of Oberyn Martell versus the Mountain. Thank goodness he had that helmet on. I'm right there with you. Right there with you. I was painful. I was like going, oh my God. Man, that must hurt. Empire Fan 1980 sends in a super chat and says, thanks a lot. And now all I can think of now is the Austin Power scene. John sends in a super chat and says, good day. Do you remember which Baby Yoda Anne has? I went to buy one and surprised of all the choices. I like hers. Thanks. I do not know what Baby Yoda Anne has. I would think that John himself would be Anne's favorite Baby Yoda, but I'm not sure. Not sure. Hero is a fan of Scent. Super chat in and says, funny about the last night's show is when Bo-Katan got shot, nobody cared, and find out if she was okay. Nah, she's a badass. They know she can take care of herself. Santez Henderson sends in a super chat and says, this has made me very fulfilled as a Star Wars fan. Everything I've ever wanted was in one single episode. Thank you, Kathy K. Yes, I said that. You know what? For everything that you might have blamed Kathy Kennedy for, you now have to give her credit because this happened on her watch too. And so did all these new shows, so we'll see where that goes. Stoner Watch Productions sent in a super chat. Stoner Watch, does that mean you watch stoners? Or you actually are making sure there's not too many of them, like Crime Watch? Stoner Watch Productions sends in a super chat and says, hey, there's another option. Grogu escapes the Kylo massacre on his own. Absolutely. I think Grogu could probably take care of himself more than we even know. Brian Geraldino Productions sends in a super chat and says, do you see Luke getting his own show? Like something that will expand the awesome EU stories? Thanks for the best show on YouTube. Inspired me to start my own podcast. Keep up the filthy. I don't, only because I think Luke in this day and age, it's problematic. I mean, special effects wise, his entire face would always be a special effect. And I think that's hard unless Sebastian Stan would play Luke. I think Sebastian Stan might be able to do that, but I don't know. He's over on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so I don't know. The Sock sends in a super chat and says, as much as Luke's face looks like a stock photo, I clapped when he was tearing through the Dark Troopers. I would have loved for them to show my boys Ezra or Cal some love, though. You know what? I think that adding Ahsoka and adding Bo-Katan for people that might not have watched any of the animated shows was already enough. And by doubling down and giving Ezra and Cal some love, it's maybe too much, but they can introduce or reintroduce those characters in, say, the Ahsoka Tano show, or however they're going to do that, and then people will be like, oh, okay, and they'll get it. The Real Society sent in a super chat and says, if that's the end of Grogu and Mando, I'm so sad. I don't know where people think that it's the end of The Mandalorian, our Mando and Grogu storyline. I don't think it is, because the show's a huge hit. They're not going to get rid of it. No one's going to, people are going to not want it. They're going to want to watch Mando some more. I don't know where people came up with this idea. They're not going to get rid of that show. Alacan1111 sent in a super chat and says, I love the way Luke first looked at Grogu in a loving way. It reminded me when Luke looked at Yoda after when Yoda died in Return of the Jedi. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. There was a lot of love there. A lot of love. Disappearing Boy sends in a super chat and says, did you catch the homage to 70s Battlestar Galactica with the TIE fighter launching from the chute like the Vipers did in Battlestar Galactica? I did notice that, and it was definitely redolent of that. Jon Favreau would have been that right age. I mean, those were, so was I, by the way, and Battlestar Galactica was very cool. Those launch tubes were awesome. Loved that. Loved it. Big Lens Uka Funhouse sent in a super chat and says, things I want to see, a training montage with Grogu running through a swamp with Luke on his back. Boba Fett playing strip poker with Jawas. I don't know if we're going to see those, Big Lens, but all right then. Chill Level TV sends in a super chat and says, it's pretty poetic how Yoda teaches Luke Skywalker, and Luke will now train baby Yoda, who is part of the same species as Yoda. I teared up at the end. I think everybody did. I agree with you. I think it's a really cool way to go. Looking forward to seeing what is going to happen. Static Skywalker sends in a super chat and says, I forgot Gideon said he extracted the blood from Grogu. Surely he sent that away to a secure facility, right? I wonder what that means going forward. Yes, I wonder what that means. And I think that we're going to find out in both of these shows. Dank Happenings, I see what you did there, sends in a super chat and says, thoughts on possible hints of why Luke is the way he is. In the ST, he takes away a kid from their parental figure, essentially making similar mistakes the previous Jedi Order made. Maybe. I think it's different in that Luke will learn from these mistakes. Maybe. I don't know. But I think there was probably more parental involvement. Maybe. But that could be all part of it. We'll see. Our friend Josh Rosauskas is here. He sends in a super chat and says, Yoda trained Luke, now Luke trains Grogu. Beautiful symmetry. Choked me up. That's right, Josh. Me too. Noxel Troxel. Noxel Troxel, I think. Glad the action from Luke wasn't just through the monitor. Also loved how formidable the Dark Troopers were depicted before he arrived. You know, Noxel, I dug that too. They're a real formidable fighting force. Scary as heck. I would not want to cross them. And I agree with that. I'm glad. I thought for sure too. I was like, oh man, they're not going to just show this to us through the monitor. But no, they couldn't do that. It was awesome. Alex Von Gollum sends in a super chat and says, Din removing his helmet for Baby Yoda was so earned, the culmination of the bonding between them throughout the season. This way his watery eyes looked at the baby made me bawl even more. Deep acting moments like this are why I love movies so much. I have spoken. Alex, I am right there with you. Right there with you. How could you not choke up from that? It was amazing. Empire Fan 1980 sends in a super chat and says, Marvel doing a what if show. I'd like to see a Star Wars version. I think that would be very cool. I would love to see a Star Wars what if show. I think that'd be great. Drake K sends in a super chat and says, Bib Fortuna looked like a pimp instead of the local crime lord. He kind of did. He looked a little different, a little fatter, but that's all right. Time had passed. And it's hard out there for a pimp. So it was certainly hard out there for Bib Fortuna in this episode. Boba Fett got some payback. I got to say, I like when he walked in there and they just killed everyone. It's great. Zara Francisco sends in a super chat and says, LOL, Mando didn't even ask for Luke's name, just hands over the kid to the stranger. I know they'll be reunited, but how's he supposed to get Grogu back? He's not. He fulfilled his quest. He was told to get Grogu back to the Space Wizards, to send Grogu to Hogwarts in space, and he did. And I think that that's a good thing. But that doesn't mean Grogu and the Mandalorian won't be reunited at some point. Hulk Shooter sends in a super chat and says, I'm seeing so much hate for the sequel trilogy in the chat. I just want to say on record, the sequel trilogy is my favorite trilogy. Bring on the hate. Well, Hulk Shooter, no one should bring on the hate, because if that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. And you shouldn't have to apologize for your feelings. Don't do that. Don't do that. Joe D sends in a super chat and says, Bo-Katan calling Django his donor made me laugh. I like that she made the clone references when she met Boba. Yeah, it's true. People know, man. I mean, Jango Fett was the basis for an entire army, and they were a formidable army at that. So obviously that Boba Fett has pretty good lineage. And I did like that, even though it was kind of supposed to be a put down in a way. You know, the idea that you're some kind of lesser of a person because you weren't you are a clone as opposed to being naturally born. The clones certainly prove themselves. I mean, Order 66 notwithstanding. Double Crit sends in a super chat and says, over under 50% Boba and Fennec become an item in his show. Who says they're not already? I mean, even though Ming-Na is like 57, she's a hottie. But we'll see. I mean, somebody should get busy in the Star Wars universe. There's none of that. It's like the most chaste universe in the world. I'd love to see a real relationship between a man and a woman, or perhaps a man and an alien, or a woman and an alien. I don't know, but some kind of, some kind of bliss happening for somebody. Static Skywalker says, did Mark Hamill do the voice? Sounded a little off. Yeah, I don't know if he did the voice. I want to find out if he was involved because, it did sound a little sketchy, but we'll see. We'll know. Leaf Envik says, shouldn't Cara Dune have recognized Luke? He was the one who avenged Alderaan by destroying the first Death Star. Did the rebels just forget about him? Well, remember, I mean, they don't have a lot of social media around, so unless you're watching news of the galaxy, not a lot. How many people know who Luke Skywalker is? Cara Dune's from Alderaan. That would be like expecting me, who's from Los Angeles, to recognize like a politician from New York City. I mean, I might know Andrew Cuomo, but that's about it. So the galaxy is a big place. Manny Garcia sends in a super chat and says, Gideon says he had what he needed from Grogu to restore order. Do you think Grogu plays a bigger part in creating the First Order, and will the show in season 3? I think Grogu will play a big part. I don't know if he has anything to do with the First Order, though. Interesting. Ismail Maynor sends in a super chat and says, Luke was the light side version of his father in this episode. The way he walked to fight reminded me of Vader. Definitely. I think there was definitely some of that in there. And I don't think it was by accident. Jake C sends in a super chat and says, if Yoda died of old age at 900, that's 10 times human life. So Grogu is 5, but if 50 years equals 1 year, Yoda would have died at the ripe old age of 18. Lamau. Yeah, it's interesting. We're going to have to find out more about the life cycle of whatever race that Grogu is from. But we might. AF sent in a super chat and says, the sequel trilogy suffered from a lack of planning. I couldn't agree more. It appears Lucasfilms learned their lesson as the Mandalorian series is well thought out. Agree? I totally agree with that. I think that the Star Wars universe moving forward has to be really well thought out. It seems to me, as we've seen, that the High Republic era, they've really thought it all out. So I think we're going to have a lot more satisfying storytelling from now on. At least I hope so. We'll have to see. But I think we're in good hands. Like State Farm. But I think we're in good hands. Operation Spider sent in a super chat and says, do you think one day Grogu would meet Rey? I don't know. Maybe. I kind of doubt it, though. But you never know. There's a reason why, Grogu is a new creation. I don't know how they're going to tie it all in, but I hope it ends, well, it doesn't end badly. We'll see. I don't know. Ismail Manor sends in a super chat and says, I think the fact that Sabine gave Bo-Katan the Darksaber without earning it played into how she lost it and lost the support of the other Mandos. I hope so. I think that's a good bet. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what we're going to see. And I think you're probably onto something there. And that'll be cool. That creates good drama. And she's got something to prove. So definitely want to see it. I want to see that happens. Julio Delgado sends in a super chat and says, all that it was missing is good old JR narrating the scene. That's got to be Luke. That's got to be Luke. Yeah, you know what? I would love that, actually. That would be really cool. That would be really cool. LJ Williams sent in a super chat and says, I don't understand. If the Darksaber can't cut through Mandalorian steel, how is it the person who owns it is the leader of the Mandalorians when they aren't even weak against the weapon? Well, I think it might have something to do with, maybe the Darksaber allowed them to forge Beskar in the first place. I don't know. But I think it all kind of works together. Maybe it's ceremonial. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I think we're going to find out. I really do. I think we're going to find out a lot of these questions. It'll be fun to see. Ian Lewis sends in a super chat and said, could they have used the same de-aging process they used on Samuel Jackson and Captain Marvel? That was excellent. They might be able to do that. But remember, everybody thinks now in the era of deep fake apps, they have to finish this stuff at 4K, and that's a tall, tall order. that's many times more than high def. And it's one thing to deep fake something at a certain resolution, but to do it on film resolution and have it stand up to close scrutiny, that's really hard to do and very expensive. But you're right, that Sam Jackson and Captain Marvel stuff was really good. MaxShade7 sent in a super chat and says, I like flawed hero Luke in The Last Jedi, but I like superhero Luke in Mando. Can they both exist in canon? Happy holidays. Well, absolutely. I mean, Luke is young and virile. He's a Jedi in The Mandalorian. He's at the height of his powers, And remember, the galaxy's just being built back up again. He's probably playing some kind of a key role. And then he heard the call. He heard Grogu's call and had to act. So I think they both can exist in canon. People get old, things change, stuff happens. You can have one bad day, like that's what created the Joker, right? And one bad day can change everything. Chris Quillman sends in a super chat and said, do you think they'll do a time jump for season 3 and or the Book of Boba Fett is actually the name of the next episode? Well, I think there's going to be some kind of time jump, maybe a couple months, could be a couple weeks, couple months. I don't know if they're going to go years in advance, but because there's a lot of time they have to cover, but we'll see. I don't know. Send Pygar. Send Pygar. I love that. Two names that sound great together. Senpai and Pygar. If you know who Pygar is, he's an angel in the movie Barbarella, but that's a great name. I love the music. Capture the Flag, new Boba Fett theme is awesome. Ludwig is doing a great job. I agree. He's crushing it. Can't wait for more Boba Fett, a dream come true. What's funny about the new Boba Fett, well, he's not new, but the way he's being portrayed is we've learned more about Boba Fett in the last couple episodes of The Mandalorian than ever, and what a character he's become. I mean, for all the coolness his Mandalorian armor has brought us over the years, I mean, basically he was a character whose reputation was built on the way he looked. And that's certainly changed. Very, very cool. Very cool. Elijah Morris sends in a super chat and says, is it me? Or was I the only one waiting for Mandalorian, for Mando to utter the words, this is the way, as he and Grogu locked eyes for the last time as he left with Luke? No, you know what? I thought that was going to be said. But it might have been a little, I mean, if they did that, it kind of would have maybe undercut the emotion of the scene because, you don't want to make light of it. This was a really sad emotional moment. I got choked up. I mean, basically, his stepfather was giving Grogu away for a better life, but still, that was rough, man. Noxarn? Just showing my appreciation for your epic show. Well, Noxarn, I hope I got that right. Thank you very much. We appreciate the support. I certainly do, because it keeps me here. Robert Perez sends in a super chat and says, it was cool to see Luke, but should it have been him picking up Baby Yoda? Why not? I think we're going to find out. And I think it should have been him picking up Baby Yoda. Because remember, at the end of Return of the Jedi, what other Jedis are there? I mean, it's Luke, man. We don't know where he's at with training new Jedis. I think Luke was the only one that could have picked him up. Christopher Clark sends in a super chat and says, what if Ho Sabine gave the dark saber? Didn't work. It didn't unite Mandalore, and Bo is hesitant to make the same mistake with the story. Could be. Interesting. Could be. I think we'll see. I'm really excited because I really like how all these characters work together, whether it's Cara Dune, whether it's Bo-Katan. I loved Ahsoka. The idea that they've basically put together a team and we're going to watch individual episodes of this team. It really is kind of like what they've done with the Avengers, and I'm sure they're going to do a crossover series like the Defenders did for Netflix. I can almost guarantee it. They admitted as much at the Disney investor meeting, so that's going to be pretty dope to see. Sergio Cabrera sends in a super chat and says, I think Grogu is part of Disney's super long game. Build a strong foundation and connection we have with him now, and when Star Wars story is ready to go to a new era in the future, a much older Grogu will be like the new Yoda, but one in which the audience is extremely connected and invested with. You know what, Sergio? That is a great point. And I think you're probably right about that. Grogu could have been on Dagobah during the entire sequel trilogy and nobody would have been the wiser. I think you might be onto something, because jumping ahead in the future and having Grogu at the height of his powers, coming back could be very, very interesting. I think you're onto something there. Danny Sanchez sends in a super chat and says, not a Star Wars fan. Love the episode, though. Super fun. How can you not be a Star Wars fan after The Mandalorian's final episode? Man, it kicked ass, but I understand. Jason A. sends in a super chat and says, hey, John, the helmet scene felt like it rhymed with the end of Return of the Jedi, where another father wanted to look on his son with his own eyes. Do you think that was intentional? 100%, Jason. I think you are absolutely right about that. For sure. Absolutely. You're totally right, and yes. What if Bo-Katan failed to unite the people of Mandalore because she was given the dark saber instead of winning it in battle, and thus why the imps glassed it? Yes, I think you're probably right about that, and wouldn't you be racked with guilt if that happened? I think you're absolutely right, 100%. John D'Amato sends in a super chat and says, hello, John, sorry if already asked. Were you surprised Carl Weathers wasn't in the last episode? I wasn't, because they had set up so much stuff. I mean, Carl Weathers hasn't been in every episode, so it didn't surprise me because he's only a recurring character. Whereas what we're doing is we saw they're putting together their core team. Carl Weathers will be back. We have not seen the last of him, and obviously he's directing as well. So I think that, for sure we're going to see him again, but I wasn't surprised he wasn't. It was stuffed up. I mean, they could have brought Bill Burr back too, but they really didn't need to. I like seeing all those characters work together the way they work together. I thought it was great. Animated Effigy sent in a super chat and said, let me see you with my own eyes. Vader Grogu, it rhymes. Also, I'm pretty sure that was the deepfake algorithm and not a reconstructed face. Interesting. Again, I'm really curious to see how that's all going to play out in terms of behind the scenes. I can't wait to see how they did all this, and I'm really looking forward to the Mandalorian Gallery Season 2. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of visual effects work, from the Krayt Dragon in the first episode to the big chase with the nitroglycerin chase from Sorcerer. I really want to see how they did all of that, and I'm really excited, so we'll see. Danny Sanchez sends in a super chat and says, that was WWE in the Cantina fight, laugh out loud. Yes, it was. Pretty great to see. Really enjoyed all of that. A lot of fun. Listen, we've come to the end of this companion video. I've answered all your questions, and I wish it were longer. I'm all fired up now. I'm all ready to keep going. But I want to thank everyone out there for supporting the John Campea Show the way you do. We very much appreciate it. As people say, it keeps the lights on and helps John branch out and do things like Movie Trailers, A Love Story. And we love talking to you guys each and every day. And especially, I mean, like I've always said, even all the way back to the Heroes days when I first met John Campea 5 years ago, we live in great times. And certainly it's amazing how the luster can return to Star Wars. I think Star Wars is back, baby, and it's back in a big way. And I don't think Star Wars has ever had a brighter future than it does now. And I do think they're going to make a Mandalorian show and a Boba Fett show concurrently. Because why wouldn't they? So we'll see. We haven't seen the last of Grogu. We certainly haven't seen the last of Luke Skywalker because Jon Favreau, he knows what's up. And Dave Filoni, they know what the audience wants because they're giving them what they want to see as well. So they're giving us what they want to see. So it's fantastic. But thanks for watching. I appreciate you sticking here with me. I know I might be a disappointment because I'm not John. But either way, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for listening. And I will see you back on the John Campea Show.